Ladies and gentlemen, it is really exciting to be here with you, and I'm so sorry we can't all be in the same room together, but it just warms my heart to see all of you committing to be here at this meeting, and we'll talk more about the commitment of Bonner and the challenges we face as we try to tackle the problems that are out there in our communities right around us. And really want to compliment you for your ruggedness, your perseverance, your tenacity. But before we dig into this, in the course of sending you a little Bonner love, I want to talk to you first about making sure that you take care of yourself, because before we can talk about you extending yourself and reaching and growing and trying to tackle problems, and tackling these bigger problems, you got to make sure that you take care of yourself. And so I want to offer you this thought, and it begins with this: that you are a treasure. There's only one of you. There never has been one of you before, and there never will be one of you again. You are utterly unique and a treasure. And you have an obligation to take care of yourself as the unique, irreplaceable treasure that you are. God or Allah or Buddha or cosmic forces made you and broke the mold. And so you are a unique treasure, and you must care for yourself. And this has to be your first great task in life, is to be the caretaker of you. Now, imagine for a moment, glance to your left. Do it with me. Glance to your left and imagine that suddenly we drop down next to you another person. And it was your job to care for this person in all regards. Would you allow this person to go long stretches on 4 and 5 hours of sleep? Would you allow them to go without meals? Would you allow them to not address their mental health issues that they might be facing? Would you deny them friendship? Would you allow them to verbally abuse themselves or have other people do that? Of course you wouldn't, right? You would be an advocate for them, helping them and encouraging them, even if at times it was against what their immediate thoughts and wants were, to do the best for them. And that's what you've got to do for yourself. Your first job is to be a caretaker of you. You must take care of yourself. You must celebrate your little victories, right? So I would say at the end of this week, if you've just got all your books on the way, even if you don't have them, if they're all on the way, if you figured out all the Zoom links and where you're going to study at home, and you're just getting settled, that's a little victory, and you need to celebrate that. Keep in mind that this path you're on is not a sprint. This is a marathon, and you will have to pace yourself. You will have to be forgiving of yourself. You're going to need to be kind to that person. That's you that you're taking care of here, and allow them to slowly get comfortable with this environment. And you have to do that particularly now more than ever, because we're dealing with different kind of stresses that are new to us. These include that we may have people in our immediate families or people we know who may be ill with COVID. Some of you may know people who died from COVID. We may be under the stress or fear for elderly relatives, family members who may be susceptible to this. The quarantining and isolating may be taking a toll on us. We may know family members who are stressed because they're unemployed or struggling with financial matters. There may be stress in the homes that we're in or that we're aware that's going on with our parents. And so we've got to be forgiving of ourselves and do the best we can to take care of ourselves. Now, I want to make sure that you understand this, that part of that job as the caretaker is to reach out and ask. Realize you are never alone. We are a family. And I want to first go over a few people here, some are on this call, that you can reach out to for any questions that you have, regardless of how seemingly mundane they are, and realize that you are not alone in these challenges. First of all, we have interns, Sarah Grace Chan, Rashika Sunku, Maham Gardezi, and Shaylee Modi. And these are all-star Bonners and students in honors who are just a few years ahead of you and have endured many of the bumps and challenges that you are going through. And they're going through some of these challenges right now that you are associated with these challenges driven from COVID. You've got your project execs at Bonanza. Shortly after Bonanza, you'll be placed in a project, and your project execs are a good resource. The upperclassmen are a fantastic resource. You need to try to find some, and we'll attempt to put you in pairs and pods with some of them, so you can talk to people in your major. You can talk to them about how to overcome all variety of challenges, large and small, so you can clear a pathway as you, the precious you, continues on this journey, even in the midst of adversity, to make your goals come true. And then, of course, I'm here. Trinity's here. And so you are more than welcome to call me, text me at any time. If you want me to come pick you up, if I can. I mean, my wife and I would love to take you to dinner. I'll meet you on campus. I'm here for a Zoom or a Teams call or a text exchange, right? We want you to know that we honor, love you, and we're here to support you as you go through these challenges. Also, there is going to be a program of mentoring that will be rolled out in the course of this semester to pair you up with other people, put you in pods, so that if you want to do it, you'll have a resource here to talk about these various challenges that you have and ways that you can meet them and get support. And again, I think the most important thing now, you must be forgiving of yourself. If your energy flags one day, don't beat yourself up about it. Just get up the next day and carry on, right? We're not going to allow perfection to stand in the way of progress. I salute you for your ruggedness, your perseverance, and your determination. But make sure in the course of it, you're taking care of yourself. I want to talk to you first. I want to talk to you next about a couple of challenges that we're facing. And I think the best thing to do in life is, I call it the drive to clarity. And that is gravitate to what the problems are and face them squarely and try to overcome them. And we've got two big challenges here. First is in the communities that are out there where we're trying to do good. If you think that poverty was a profound problem in our society when you first might have applied for Bonner, it is dramatically worse now. We have long lines seeking to get food at Houston Food Bank pantries and food distribution sites. It's clear that with the rate of unemployment, that a whole variety of stressors that those of greater means wouldn't have to endure are in fact inflicting societies that we care about. And remember, we are poverty fighting warriors. That's what this program is about. And we are honored that you have joined this elite company here to continue in this shared drive to get out there and go fight poverty. And so we have to keep this in mind. Now more than ever, we have a challenge ahead of us to try to do it. And remember what we're doing. We're trying to make people's hopes and dreams a reality so that they're just not fairy tale dreams, that they're realistic possibilities for people to have. And that's what we're working on. I think the other big challenge is internal in our program, and that is this: unity, our cultural bond. And so we all need to make a special commitment to honor our commitment to Bonner and this work and each other, and make sure we hold ourselves accountable to be the best that we can be in this, to make sure we're at our meetings, to try to prop each other up, to continue on in the mission that we have. And this will be a particular challenge for us. And your leadership team is very committed to trying to do the things that we can to hold ourselves accountable to be the best we can. Now, I want to go over with you here briefly what the specific elements of commitment in Bonner are. Number one, we strive for 10 hours of work a week. We make a sincere effort for 10 hours of work per week. If you feel that there isn't enough for you to do, I invite you to contact me or Trinity or your project execs. We will do everything we can to help you find the work to fulfill your ambitions to do your service. Number two, we attend meetings. We are punctual in our attendance at those meetings. We are in the moment in those meetings. We attend rallies. We attend huddles. We go to our spring break. We go to Bonanza, and we go to our project meetings. This is an obligation we have. This is a commitment in Bonner. Third, we communicate. Silence is not what we do. So all emails, all communication that you receive should be substantive replied to within 48 hours. So if somebody sends you communication, they are waiting for your reply. And that is an obligation we have to communicate efficiently and substantively. Next, we are all Bonner leaders. Let me make sure we understand what this means. It means that regardless of where you are in this organization, whether you are a person who's just joined a project, you are nevertheless a leader. And here's what that means: that you need to be working with vigor to address the challenges that your project is attempting to work on in our society. You need to communicate with purpose. You need to be actively engaged as a problem solver. So wherever you are, you can bring leadership into your project and here into Bonner. Next, you have a responsibility, as we all do, to hold this organization and all of its members accountable, to see to it that we are doing the best that we can within the commitment we've made to Bonner, within that time, to be fully engaged with the work that we're doing here. The communities that depend on us ask nothing less. And this will be a particular challenge this semester, because if we're mentoring online, we may have problems where some of those mentees may not come at some point, but we need to be there every time. And just because they aren't doesn't mean that we won't be. So in other words, don't allow a kind of a culture melt to happen here where if they're not there 2 times, you stop showing up. We will keep hope alive that we will find ways to get them back on board and do the best that we can for them. Now, if you agree to those commitments, I ask you now to demonstrate by raising your hand that you agree to these and that you are on board with it. You have a choice. You don't have to do this, right? There are other projects and other work that you can do, but this is the commitment in Bonner. And if you're on board, I ask you to commit. Fantastic. That's great. I love it, seeing us all in this together. Okay, we'll turn it over to Miss Rainier. We got to really admire Miss Rainier. She just worked her tail off this summer and produced a ton of great work, and she continues to pour herself into Bonner with a kind of vigor and energy that's just really inspiring.
Thanks, Dr. Irwin. It's great to see all of you guys on this meeting, and there's so many people here. We would be busting out of the large classroom, which is, I think, awesome, and someday we'll be back. But I'm going to go through a few announcements really quickly, and then we'll get to kind of the meat of our day, and then head home with our evenings and kind of hunker down for the night. So I have just a few announcements for us all. First, I just wanted to give a reminder for some, and then new information to the new Bonners about how our rallies and huddles work, because it can seem kind of confusing. Essentially, these are our training and enrichment meetings, there are education opportunities, there are development opportunities, and there's 2 different kinds. So a rally is what we're doing tonight, and it's where we have all of the Bonners in one room together at the same time, going over the same thing. And these are mandatory, and we'll have them once a month, one in each month. So the next ones will be in September, on the 15th and the 16th. And I'll send out all these dates so you guys can put them on your calendar. We have them twice, as you guys have learned, on Tuesday and Wednesday, so that everybody has the opportunity to go. And as you all know, you've been assigned to one of them in an effort to kind of keep the groups about the same size, but if you need to switch back and forth, that's totally okay. And then we have the huddles, which are going to be on the weeks we don't have rallies. And those are optional, but highly, highly recommended. Those are really your chance to decide what you want to get out of your participation in this program, because those are going to be your big opportunities for professional development, personal development, leadership development, etc. So with all of these meetings, I'll post a calendar soon. I'll publish that into our Teams page so you guys can keep track of what's going on when. And we should have that out soon. But on weeks we don't have rallies, we'll have huddles, and we will have almost without exception a meeting each week, whether a rally or a huddle. So secondly, we will have something going out soon that's a little bit of a kind of a re-up on the communication memo that we sent out last year that kind of goes over our expectations with communication, some of which Dr. Irwin has just spoken about. And then I'll also be sending out tonight a document which has some training for teams. So it goes over important features and specifically how we in Bonner are going to be using Teams, so that you know where to find things, and we can all be on the same page about how we're using this program. Third, I want to remind everybody about Bonanza on Saturday. It looks good chances that we're not going to get too much damage here in Houston, but we, of course, will keep an eye on how things go and adjust as necessary. But as of now, our Bonanza on Saturday is on, and we look forward to seeing all of you guys here. So new Bonners, that'll be a chance to meet the returning members, and we'll do some bonding and some information as well. That'll be 10 to 1, so I hope you have it on your calendars. New Bonners, that's also where, or anyone who's needing a project placement, that's where you'll have the opportunity to hear about the projects, how they're going to be run this semester, because it's going to be different than usual with the virtual environment for the most part. And then you'll have the opportunity at Bonanza to indicate your interest in projects, after which in the next week, the senior interns will do a little puzzle work and place people in their projects. So hold tight for that. That is coming, and it'll be pretty soon. The last one I have is that we do aspire to do more issue-based learning in Bonner, and we will be doing more issue-based huddles. So we'll have some on education, food insecurity, affordable housing, and topics like the ones that we work in, where you guys can learn more from other Bonners and from community partners about these issues that we're working on, because we really do want to cultivate a deep understanding of the work that we're doing and why it's necessary, and just how complicated it is. And then secondly, on that point, we wanted to do a bit more of an issue exploration project this semester, where we would cover a contentious issue of the day and try to take a position on it by the end of the semester through discussion groups and article reading and things like that. Given the way that the semester is going and that it's going to be weird, it's going to be difficult, it's going to have a lot of unique challenges, we're going to wait on that, but we do want you guys to know that we do want to endeavor to do more issue-based learning and to really tackle some of these difficult issues that we're seeing every day. So keep an eye out on that for future semesters. So those are my announcements. And I think we're going to do, because we can't be in person, that would be the best scenario, but because we can't be in person, we do want to have opportunities to mix and mingle, to get to meet people. And we think it's all the more important that we take some time to just interact with each other during these meetings, since none of us really get a whole lot of that anymore these days. And we do want to build community in the program. So it's 6:20. I'm going to break us out into breakout rooms of about, let's see, we have 50 people, so about 5 people or so. I'm going to give you this question of, did you do anything exciting this summer, if at all possible? But you guys can talk about whatever you want. If you need fodder for thought, that can be it. But whoever's in the group, feel free to facilitate it. You don't need a designated facilitator. And I'll pull us back in 5 minutes, so at about 6:26. I'm going to do that now. All right, here we go.
Oh.
Lauren, your hair's new colors. Good. Brianna's lurking without her camera on. right, we'll give it a minute for everybody to come back.
Are we in a different room now?
What, Maha?
This is
Oh,
the main
no.
room. No.
Okay, all I saw was Jessica's face.
Oh, hello.
Oh,
Okay, this is the main room.
Jessica, how was Camp Kesem?
It was really good. Yeah, like we had a good turnout of campers, and they were able to still engage with us even though it was all through like Zoom.
Good. Yeah, I saw the posts of the different activities, and I thought, wow, I can't believe they were still able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's see if we have Doug back with us. Oh, you're there. You're on the screen for me now. You used to be right next to me. All right, well, we can go ahead and move on. I think that everybody is back. Hi, Ariel. I can see your face now. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen because we're going to get into a little bit of a more instructional mode. And I'm going to introduce something that's new. I'm going to share my desktop. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff on it. But I want to show you guys a document that is in our team. So if you go to our general channel in the files, you'll find a document that is called Student Learning Outcomes Rubrics. And let me know if any of this isn't popping up for you. So we want to be a lot more intentional about the things that we're trying to teach through Bonner, the things that we want you to be learning through your experience. They've always been central to what we do, and we've always known that Bonner has a profound impact on the students that come through, but we want to do a bit more intentional thought about how we teach the concepts we think are important, and then how we measure to see if we're actually doing that effectively. So we have Dr. Irving and I come up with the 9 learning outcomes that we think are really essential for you all to learn as life skills, as skills for your future careers, and as civically engaged members of the community. So there are 9. I'm not going to go over them all right now. We'll talk a bit more about this at Bonanza, but I just wanted to share what we're going to do today, and you guys can flip through this if you want to. But today we're going to talk a little bit about critical thinking. And so this is a really important skill that we hear a lot about, of course. There's no doubt that critical thinking is something we should be learning at college. You'll hear professors talk about it all the time. It's probably on a lot of your syllabus, paperwork, but it's not always totally clear what that means. And with all of these learning outcomes, the things that we want to teach you, we've tried to be very careful about how we define these terms, how we define the concepts that make them up, and then how we're going to teach them. So I'm going to introduce these concepts really quickly, and then Dr. Irving is going to walk us through an exercise to practice some of these things. But like we said, we want to be more intentional about how we teach these concepts. So critical thinking, and the way we're going to look at it today is in the term or in the context of something of a political issue. But this has to do with things that are political, they're scientific, that are just life. And so you can apply this in a lot of different areas. So I'm going to go through the elements really quickly, and then I'll turn it over. And you'll see kind of across the board, there's 5 elements listed on the left that are components of critical thinking. And then there's a series of steps and how well that one may have mastered this skill. And so some of us might be at the capstone level, in which case, go you. Some of us might be at the benchmark level, or some of us might be at a milestone in between. So just to show you guys that this is a skill that is to be developed and practiced, and that you might find yourself on any scale, or in any exercise, you might find yourself in any part of this scale, and that we do want to be aspiring to the capstone level. So the first of these elements is of good critical thinking is being able to explain an issue in its context. So it's understanding the context around an issue. Maybe it's the history or the cultural context, or who's talking about it and where they're coming from with it. Issue and context can be kind of vague, but it's the background information, what you need to know in order to situate the issue in its context and in the rest of the information that affects it, rather than just as an isolated and non-complex event. Secondly, we have select and present evidence. And this is a crucial skill for critical thinking because critical thinking really is a questioning process. It's a process of gathering more information of questioning those sources, of looking at various and credible sources, and then processing that evidence and working toward understanding more about the issue. And so that might even include something like, reading an article in the Wall Street Journal and then going and looking at, well, who's writing this? What's their background? What do they actually know about this? Are they an authority to write on this? And doing that kind of investigation as well. The third is evaluating perspectives, your own and others. And this is a critical component of critical thinking, because it's really about understanding the biases or the biases and the assumptions and the perspectives that we carry with us, which color the way that we understand and perceive information. So any one of you might come to an issue with a different perspective than another one in this room or in this Zoom meeting, and still another different perspective from someone who lives on the other side of the country, or another part of the world, or in another career. So understanding your own perspective and how that colors what you think, and being able to do the same for others, is really important in order to understand how those aspects might change the way that we talk about or think about or understand issues. And the last two are a little bit more practical. So you have taking a position. That's kind of a culmination of the first three. You've done this critical thinking in steps of understanding the context, finding evidence, evaluating perspectives, and then you're able to articulate your position and base that on the questioning and the investigation you've done. The last one is application, and this is pushing that process just a little bit further. It's understanding what's the implication of what I just decided, or what I've just researched or heard about. What's the implication of a tax increase for X group of people on an individual? What is it on a family? It's understanding, after I make this decision or take this position, what would be the real world effect? And how should that affect the way you think about it? So that's a quick run through, and I encourage you guys to take a look at these rubrics. We'll be going over one of the skills in this document in every rally, and we'll have guest speakers sometimes, different activities. But today this is the one we'll be focusing on, and Dr. Owen will walk us through it now, but I do encourage you guys to go ahead and take a look more on your own time. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. All right, Dr. Irving, it's all you.
I don't know about that. That's a scary thought. But anyway, here goes. So what we've got for you, I just put two statements in the chat, in the chat. And the first one says that Confederate statues are all about slavery, tear them down. And then there's a second statement, which is longer. So here's the nature of this exercise. We want to explore critical thinking and get you thinking in an actively engaged way about it. And so each of these statements are intended to be more in the wheelhouse for one of these elements of critical thinking. And the elements are on that far left side. They're explaining the issue in the context, selecting and presenting evidence, perspective, taking a position, and application. And so read these statements that are in the chat box, and then let's take a guess which of the elements that these two statements are might be part of, with the first statement being much weaker than the second one, but the second one might not even be all that it could be. It's not intended to be. And then let's talk about which one they are and which element they're designed to be addressing, and then we'll talk about them. So take just a second and read them.
I did drop the link to the rubric if you guys want to have that on hand in front of you yourself.
Hi, Becca. It's good to see you.
Hello.
Okay, have you got those two? You got those? So why don't we have can we have a brave volunteer to tell us which of the elements that these two statements might be part of, with the first statement being kind of a benchmark that's not very good, and the second one an improvement on? and part of these elements? You have a brave volunteer?
I'll go.
Okay,
Jane.
Jay? Yeah.
I would guess that the first one is taking a position. And the second one is.
Well, they're both supposed to be part of one of these elements. So your thought is that they're about
Okay.
taking a position.
Oh, yeah, I guess I would guess that then.
What does the second one have a lot more of than the first one?
Evidence.
So Jane's been brave and helped us take a, kind of get off the ground here. So how about a volunteer? I see, is it?
I'll go.
Okay, sure.
So I think the second one has a lot more evidence and explanation as to why they're taking that position. And the first one is just stating the position without truly looking into it.
Yeah, right. And Jane's answer is absolutely plausible. And what you should see is that the best articulated positions actually have all of these elements. So it's a little hard to kind of tease them out from each other. And so it very well could be a position, but I did intend this to be about the evidence. And yes, the second one attempts to state evidence that would build us toward an argument about why we should do certain things, and indicates an exploration here, an interpretation that looks at various kinds of viewpoints and has a hint of analysis in it about exactly what they're doing here. And so, absolutely, the first one is just a blanket statement that doesn't tell someone in a way that might persuade them as to why they would do this certain thing. Let me give you another one, and we'll keep digging in here. So the first two lines of the first statement, and then notice there it says the question is what to do about these statues or these monuments. Help me with your last name. Is it Najwa? Najwa?
Yeah.
Padilla, you want to take a guess at it? Which one of these elements is this? Are we trying to target here? Notice it says the question is what to do about these.
I think this one isn't as assertive as the one before. This one is kind of asking for feedback rather than just making a blanket statement.
Yeah. So which one of those elements is it? Are we trying to explain the issue and understand the context? Are we evaluating perspectives? Are we taking a position? Which one do you think?
I think maybe evaluating.
It certainly could be. Yeah, right. This could be the kind of in which we're understanding understanding kind of what we do with these. I think it could also be one in which we're looking to try to understand and explain what the issue is. So people immediately might say, well, tear them down. But then the question is, well, does that argument lead us to tear down all the monuments, including monuments of Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, right? And so I think you're right. It could be that, or it could be about the context. And notice that second statement is asking you to kind of back up from that initial reaction and statement that immediately calls us to do something and try to dig a little bit deeper to understand maybe what the context is about what's going on here. Let me throw another one at you. This one will take you a little minute to Okay, do we have a brave volunteer here? Which
I'll
one of
go.
these elements are we looking at here?
I'll go.
Fantastic. Who's that? Looking for you.
I don't know.
Great.
I
Yeah,
don't know
take
if
a
y'all
shot.
can hear me.
We can.
This one is definitely taking a specific stance. It's saying that we should take them down, move them, or other things should happen to them. So this person's not saying that all of them should be torn down. They're saying that some of them should be relocated, and then it should be a process that has everyone's decision inputted, not just one person
Yeah, you all are
or
all
a
making
committee
nice
saying
contributions.
these need to come down and nobody else has to say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's very, very nice work. Y'all are all doing great stuff here. Let me ask somebody. Look at that last sentence where it says, "This will take time and frustrate some who want immediate action." What part of taking a position is that? What's the role of that sentence with the acknowledgement that it's not all going to happen as quickly as some might want? Why would you say such a thing if you're taking a position?
You're inputting like someone else's perspective and putting yourself in their shoes.
Yes, and Ramon, I think you're absolutely right. And this sort of statement here, as you say articulately, embraces and appreciates the perspective of somebody else, anticipates a position or an objection they might have to this, but explains why we should pursue this position nonetheless. So whether you agree with it or not, you're going to be encouraged because this person is anticipating objections and then giving you a reason why nonetheless it's worth doing, which should be part of taking a position. So take a look at these rubrics, and we really want you, Trinity really led the way here in something that has long been needed in Bonner to come up with these learning outcomes. We are going to embrace these. We're going to talk about them very overtly. We want you to try to be better at these sorts of skills with the idea that they all in total, all the ones we're going to go over, will ultimately lead you to be a better civically engaged, highly ethical, value-driven, effective leader, and to be able to go out and build teams and build a consensus and go out and do good. So, any thoughts about this? No? Ms. Rainier, final thoughts?
Yes, so I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to share my screen in a second again to show you guys. So another thing we're going to do, and we'll talk about this more at Bonanza as well, but after each rally, so once a month, we're going to have an assignment that follows the rally, and it's something fairly quick, but that just allows you guys another opportunity to practice the skill that we've gone over that day, and it also gives us an opportunity to see if we're actually being effective at teaching these things. So I'm going to share my screen and show you all that, and I just want to encourage you that critical thinking is important for any field that you're ever going to go into, and just for being a human being in this world. I think that's more clear now than probably it ever has been, with just the discord and the discontent and the disagreement that's going on all around it, it feels like. And the more equipped you are to think critically about the issues, to not run from a difficult issue, I have the tendency to say, well, I don't know enough about that to really take a position. I'm not going to talk about it. But it's important that we as fellow human beings, as members of a society, as citizens of our country or wherever we are at any point in our lives, to take a position on things that really matter, and to understand issues that are hard but that are going to keep coming up. So I want to encourage you guys to have the courage to do that, and know that it's hard for everybody, and I am the first one to say that. And to practice it with yourself and with others, and hold each other accountable when you think someone's not thinking critically enough about something in a gentle and loving way. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys the assignment that we've developed for this. Again, my crazy screen. So in the Rallies and Huddles channel is where we'll put any document that's associated with a rally or a huddle. And it's also where you'll find the assignments for these monthly rallies. So here's our feed where we'll post links and stuff. But if you go to the files section, of our Rallies and Huddles channel, you'll find a folder called Assignments. And in there, there's a document. So far, there's only one because I haven't uploaded the rest of the assignments. And it'll always start with the month, rally assignment, and then whatever we talked about. So this is for the critical thinking lesson. In the document that comes up, there's a link to a form. That's probably how we'll do most of these, just because that's the easiest data processing method. And if you click on it, for me, I have to control click and it'll automatically bring it up. Actually, I'm on a different computer than I was yesterday. There we go. It'll bring up this form. It's essentially a Google form, but through Microsoft. And what we need from you guys is to, of course, put your name and if you attended the live meeting or a recording, and then answer this question. So I'll read it and then kind of give some instructions. This is our first time, but normally I'll post the assignment at least the day of and remind you guys at the end of the rally that's up there. So this is a different issue and one that we want you guys to practice independently. Really, we want to give you guys the opportunity to practice the things that we're working on independently on your own. If you want to work with other honors on this, that doesn't bother me. If you can somehow find a way to do so, but really the independent use of these skills is what we're striving for. So this particular assignment, which I said is short, is as follows. So Seattle City Council member Kshama Sawant, among others, continues to push for drastic change to policing in Seattle and the nation. We want you guys to design a series of at least 5 questions, which would help you think more critically about her following position and statement. So this is her position and statement, which I drew from a paper that she posted, essentially. Police funding should be cut by at least 50% and reallocated to other community services. This is not a case of good and bad apples. The whole tree is rotten. The police and the state under capitalism enforce the interests of the billionaire class. So clearly this is a pretty extreme view, or at least the way that it's worded and the amount of the policy change that she's advocating for. So we want you guys to develop this series of 5 questions that would really help you think more critically. So think back to the statements that we went over with Dr. Irwing. Those are statements, they have information in them, but they would have been gotten at through a questioning process. And that's what we really want you guys to practice now is what are the questions that you should ask to get at this issue a little closer. So it might, and it, refer back to that rubric, which has the different categories. You could ask a question about context or about perspective or whatever would make sense for you. We don't want you guys to answer the questions. We don't need you to go do a bunch of research about this issue or take a position on it even. We just want you to practice the questioning process. And you can enter that into the box and hit submit. So I'm gonna close my screen now that you've seen it. If you guys have questions about where to find these things in the future, please just ask me and I'm happy to share. And it's also written at the bottom of this where you can find the rubric. We ask that you guys will finish these by the end of the week whenever we have a rally so that we can look at them. They're not graded, they're not a grade. They're just, as we said, a way for you guys to have more practice and for us to see how well we're developing these skills. And so, don't overthink it, don't go crazy, don't lose sleep about it, but just take a shot at practicing these skills on your own. That's all I've got. Anything else?
As we wind down for this year, I want to just tell you 2 other things here. And the first is that we are going to be nimble and we are going to take some challenges on this coming year that we might not otherwise because our communities demand it. Some of this task, some of this work may seem menial to you. It may not have the kind of project depth, management, and leadership, but we are going to jump in, with both hands and do what work we can, roll up our sleeves and be the best support that we can for our community partners and do the best that we can. So as some of this work is, comes your way, I encourage you to jump in and help where you can. The second thing is we will have some additional work that has developed out of the listening sessions that we had in the wake of protests about Black Lives Matter. And I want to be clear to you that the perspective of this organization is that Black Lives Matter. And that is not a matter, that's not something of debate. And that is the position of this program. And Maham and Mimi and Tanvi and what was it, Spurthy? I can't remember. We had 4 or 5 people that are involved in a group that is leading a way to get us in a set of projects that are more direct addressment of racial disparity and those involved in the African American community. I've already had conversations to try to get us to Yates. I mean, it's an absolute shame that the University of Houston isn't eagerly embracing this high school, which is literally on our doorstep, to try to do more good there. And we will. We will. And we will also be leaders in other ways, working from within our organization with leadership and ideas that come from within, from you, to attempt to do better about this issue and, you know, and respond to the world, our country, and our communities right around. So I want to just tell you, end and just say, I find you inspiring. You guys are amazing. You really are. And there's just hard to think of anything that 80 hardworking, dedicated, altruistic people like you can't solve. And together we will go do a lot of good. And I really commend you for your hard work and your dedication and your commitment. Thank you for being a Bonner. And it's an honor to be on the leadership team. You guys have a great evening.
Yes, I'm going to leave the meeting, but I'll leave it open in case anybody wants to just hang out and chat. Ordinarily, we'd be able to talk in the hallways and all of that, but we obviously can't now. So it's great to see you all, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on Saturday.
Freshmen, we'll see you at the senior intern meeting.
Bye. See y'all later. Have a good evening.
Time out of your evening.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Seriously.